Hey guys, tonight we slip into silk slippers and tiptoe through Tang Dynasty gardens, where poets traded sleep for celestial water. Imagine mist hugging lotus ponds like a jealous lover, those pink petals cradling liquid starlight. You won't last 5 minutes here. Coffee hasn't been invented yet, and dawn arrives colder than a tax collector's smile. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and current moon phase. Mine's Shanghai, 2 a.m., with rain tapping the window like a restless calligrapher. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your breath fogs the air as you crouch, knees protesting, beside a leaf broad enough to shade a grasshopper king. Bronze tweezers in hand, you pluck one bead after another, 18 drops per teacup, 72 for a proper gift. Historians confirm Tang poets rose before servants, their notebooks soggy with obsession. But here's the kicker. Scrolls from 812 AD mention collectors licking leaves directly, a rumor scholars dismiss as drunken hyperbole. You balance a clay jar, its rim chipped from last week's mishap, as dew slithers down bamboo gutters. That floral tang, not imagination. Lotus enzymes mingle with midnight mist, creating a nectar chemists still can't replicate. Careful now, spill a drop, and Li Bai's ghost might haunt your teapot forever. Wrist aching, you recall the real reason they chose lotus over peony or pine. It's not symbolism, purity. My foot, those waxy leaves repel bugs better than slapstick. Quick joke. Why did the poet's wife hide his tweezers? Too much morning devotion to the pond nymphs. Drops shimmer like quicksilver, each cradling a distorted reflection of your face. Historians still argue whether they flicked away the first harvest, believing it contained yawn residue, or kept every precious gram. Your numb fingers vote for option 2. A frog plops into the water, ripples erasing your work. You sigh. 14 drops lost, 23 to go. Some say the best dew came from exiled poets' gardens, their tears thickening the brew. Others swear Imperial concubines added perfumed sweat for complexity. By 5th bell, your jar's half full. Sunlight pierces the horizon, so you scramble like a squirrel caught mid-theft. Miss the magic hour, and your hall becomes glorified dishwater. Ever tried sipping evaporated poetry? Tastes like regret and mothballs. Final count, 69 drops. Close enough. You stopper the jar, its contents sloshing like liquid twilight, and yawn so wide a cricket hops in. Dinner later, maybe. Your bed of straw and ambition calls as you shuffle back. A servant girl snickers at your muddy hem. Let her laugh. Tonight, when moonlight steeps your stolen sky water into tea, the steam will curl into characters no brush could capture. Somewhere a palace clock chimes, somewhere a poet starves. But here now, your hands cradle centuries in a clay jar. The first sip, cold drinking a hymn composed entirely of silence. You slip through jade-lined corridors where emperors once chased immortality. Their marble floors still echo with desperate footsteps. Imperial alchemists swore dawn dew boiled with crushed pearls, dissolved old age. Their steam carried emperors' breath toward endless horizons. You'd think royal physicians prescribed chamomile, but no, they demanded chrysanthemum petals soaked in moonlight-kissed droplets. Think of it as the original energy drink. If energy drinks could allegedly add decades to your life, Emperor Xuanzong's kitchens once employed 342 staff, mostly just to rinse night-blooming jasmine for pre-dawn harvesting. Servants brushed leaves with rabbit hair whisks to avoid bruising the essence. No one mentions the real kicker, though. Those immortality brews tasted like pond water, filtered through a tax collector's sock. Courtiers who gagged faced punishment, tongues pressed with chilled jade slabs, until they praised the elixir's delicate earthiness. Historians found 17 chipped jade tongues in a forgotten vault last century, each carved with apologies to the royal palate. Here where poets become tea-stealing bandits. They noticed court alchemists getting sloppy, storing imperial dew in poorly sealed jars behind the moon-viewing pavilion. Midnight raids became sport. Scholar Li Yi wrote entire odes about the thrill of dunking his teacup into the emperor's personal stash. Imagine stealing a king's fountain of youth just to make oolong taste floral, chaotic genius. Rebellion simmered in every sip when poets served dew-steeped tea at court banquets. Nobles erupted, not because they recognized the stolen goods, but because the drinks lacked that signature algae aftertaste. Elders grumbled about disrespecting tradition, while covertly pocketing tea cakes for later. The real scandal: dew tea didn't prolong life. It just made mortality smell like osmanthus blossoms. A fringe scroll claims concubines used leftover elixir dew for foot baths, insisting it softened heels better than apricot scrubs. Chinese letter RUMOR says one consort's soaking tub birthed a lotus plant, though that's likely just mold they preferred not to address. Historians still argue whether poets genuinely believed in dew's power, or simply enjoyed yanking the emperor's chain. Either way, their stolen sunshine became the original protest art, a quiet middle finger dipped in jasmine petals. Your fingers brush cool marble, where alchemists once poured failed elixirs down drains. Those spills left permanent stains, resembling twisted cranes. Or maybe that's just how mildew grows here. You pocket a shard of jade tongue debris, half expecting it to melt into honey on your tongue. It doesn't. Tastes like rock. Go figure, even rebellion leaves grit between the teeth. You stumble upon camels snorting under moon-bleached stars, their humps swaying with more than spice sacks. Silk Road caravans leaked stories like broken amphorae, and poets lapped them up. Persian traders whispered of moon-water rituals, midnight gatherings, where priests caught droplets in silver bowls to honor the queen of tides. Tang scholars rolled their eyes until someone tried steeping Longjing tea with the stuff. Turns out stolen imperial dew and hijacked mysticism make one hell of a breakfast blend. Here's the mainstream nugget. Persian envoys actually brought rosewater distillation tech to Chang'an in 743 CE. Court chemists ignored the roses, but pounced on the condensation traps. Within months, dew collection bowls went from coconut shells to filigreed bronze masterpieces. You're basically looking at the world's first hipster drip coffee setup, but for sky juice. Ever hear a camel snort into a teacup? Apparently, some caravans insisted their beast's breath ripened dawn dew. A fringe scroll details a guard who carried 34 camel nose-shaped cups, each labeled with a snout's flavor profile. His journal claims a grumpy Bactrian named Zio2 produced dew with hints of sandalwood and existential despair. Poets loved it, health officials less so. Picture this: you're a bored Tang merchant sipping Persian sharbet, watching monks argue over icehouse designs. One slams his bowl. Moon water must freeze at the crescent's tip to capture benevolence. Another huffs. Only fools ignore Neptune's influence. Meanwhile, your translator's half drunk and inventing words. Somehow, this chaos leads to combining lunar water with Hangzhou tea leaves. Globalization, baby. Historians still argue whether Persian rituals directly shaped Tang tea culture, or if poets just liked exotic excuses to stay up past curfew. Those midnight dew collection parties did get spirited. Scrolls mention drunken diagramming of star patterns, and at least one ill-advised attempt to brew tea inside a lotus blossom. Spoiler, it's harder than murals suggest. Your hand grazes a camel hair filter abandoned in the dust, its fibers matted with centuries of evaporated ambition. Merchants swore these could strain out foreign bitterness, but the best teas always kept a hint of danger. Like that time, someone spiked a governor's cup with Sogdian wine-infused dew. 3 days of diplomatic chaos and a wildly popular new cocktail. Wagons creak past, spilling contradictions, Zoroastrian hymns tangled with Buddhist mantras, saffron staining Taoist scrolls. A Uyghur trader winks, offering moon-adjacent dew collected from a well near Bukhara. It's well water. You buy it anyway, the lie tastes like adventure. Besides, all tea's just flavored hope. Why not let it wear a fun hat somewhere west of Dunhuang? A Sasanian silver bowl sits half-buried, inscribed with instructions for inviting Anahita's tears into one's liver. A Tang poet repurposed it to steep chrysanthemums. Near the rim, faint teeth marks suggest someone tested if divinity was edible. Pradip, it's not. But try explaining that to a sleep-deprived scholar high on moon theories. The stars swivel above ancient trade routes, celestial silk, forever unwinding. Your throat tingles with the ghost of 1,000 caravans' experiments. Rosewater and dragonwell tea cardamom-dusted ice, dew boiled in a recycled helmet. Every sip an argument, every swallow a treaty. You spit the dregs onto thirsty soil, wondering what delicate heresy will sprout by dawn. Your breath clouds hang like stolen ghosts, each exhale a fragile testament to winter's bite. Frost claws at your sleeves as you join the pre-dawn procession, poets shuffling through knee-deep snow, their bamboo scoops clinking like rebellious wind chimes. There, after what Tang scrolls called cold jade tears, to that clings to frozen leaves long after summer's surrender. Mainstream records confirm it. 7th century alchemists prized winter dew for yin vitality. Never mind that half the collectors lost fingernails to the chill. Here's the ritual. Find a plum blossom branch encased in ice, its petals sheltering a single drop. Wait until the 3rd hour, when night's grip falters, but dawn hasn't yet betrayed the dark. Scrape the droplet with a jade-tipped swan feather. If done just right, and your teeth aren't chattering too hard, it'll shatter into 7 smaller pearls. Each supposedly holds the memory of a different summer sunrise. You try it, get 6 pearls, close enough for government work. Ever seen a dew collector's socks? Northern nobles wore 99 layered silk ones during harvests. The quirky part, a 9th century manual, insists the left sock must always be inside out to confuse frost demons. Someone probably just dressed in the dark once and invented a whole philosophy. Makes you wonder how many traditions began as someone's caffeine-deprived mistake. The real prize, dawn dew gathered during the winter solstice, so cold it's said to reverse time in your veins. Poets swore it steamed when poured, as if defying physics just to mock them. One anecdote survives about a collector who drank a vial and forgot his own name for 3 days. He wrote his best work during the amnesia, then burned it, calling the verses stolen from a ghost. Historians still argue whether winter dew's summer echo was chemistry or cope. Frozen pomegranate leaves do retain trace oils from warmer months. Scientists confirmed that in 2014. But does that explain why Tang elites paid 30 horses for a jar of 9th hour frost, or why one governor bankrupted his county stockpiling snowmelt he swore was dew's bastard cousin? Someone hands you a bronze cup, its contents swirling with what looks like liquid smoke. From last winter's final harvest, murmurs a woman missing 2 fingertips. You sip. Expect crispness, get fire. The dew's been aging in a cedar cask, absorbing resinous whispers. It coats your tongue like sunlight, filtered through pine needles. A joke forms about seasonal affective disorder cures, but the taste silences you. Look closer at those bamboo scoops. Each has a tiny hearth god carving near the handle, an offering to coax warmth from unyielding cold. One poet's journal confesses he licked the figurine for luck. His entry ends 12 harvests later, tongue still, sticks to jade in winter. Worth it. A debate erupts nearby, two collectors arguing over conifer versus citrus trees. Pine dues 2, turpentine adjacent. Snaps a man wrapped in what resembles a literate yeti. His rival waves a persimmon leaf. Only fruitwood dew can balance winter's metallic aftertaste. Neither notices their breath has fused their beards into an icy Rapunzel braid. You pocket a frozen magnolia bud. Instead, rebellion tastes floral today. Your hands burn numb as you mimic their scraping motions. The pearls keep fracturing into sad crumbs. The Yeti man notices, snorts. City fingers, he mutters. Then, unexpected mercy, he slaps your hands against his own chest. The shock of body heat feels like betrayal. Your yelp startles a pheasant from its snow den. But when you try again, 7 perfect pearls glint in the scooped crescent. The sun breaches the horizon, a pantomime of warmth. Harvesters scurry to stash their vials before light corrupts the dew's pristine darkness. You surrender your collection to a cedar box, its hinges stiff with old resin. Somewhere, a poet's reciting verses to his frozen hall, serenading droplets like their shy lovers. His breath weaves through the trees, leaving accidental ice sculptures on every branch. You pocket one, a dragon that melts by noon, leaving your sleeve damp with the ghost of his ambition. Walking back, you pass a shrine where icicles dagger the earth like inverted candles. Inside, offerings of stale dew tea and a single mitten. The caretaker, a wisp of a woman, insists the frost here remembers every prayer ever whispered to it. Come back in spring, she croaks. It weeps all the warm months for what it can't keep. You leave a pearl in the alms bowl. It winks up, a tiny, defiant summer. You kneel in a scriptorium lit by despairingly thin candles, their smoke staining scrolls with accidental shadows. Scribes hunched like herons dot the room, brushes darting. Their charting dew's moods, third-hour mists, plotted alongside fifth-hour evaporations. Mainstream history nails this much. Tang bureaucrats really did create the Bureau of Celestial Beverages to standardize harvests. Never mentioned the clerk's nickname, Heaven's Plumbers. Your thumb brushes a half-finished manuscript. Ink bleeds, a symptom of rebellious humidity. The scribe beside you mutters about fifth-hour treason as he blots the mess. His notes read like lunar gossip. Mulberry leaves gossip after dawn. Willow dew sulks in clay jars. Lotus droplets demand flattery. A junior clerk arrives with dinner rice balls rolled in pickled magnolia petals. He, accidentally, knocks over an inkstone. 3 scrolls drown in indigo. The head scribe sighs it's his nephew and starts again. You note he's rewritten the same line 17 times. Dew collected under a carpenter's star tastes of sawdust and regret. Quirky detail. These scrolls were inked with dew-based charcoal. Rookie mistake. The stuff molds by midsummer. They're time capsules of scribal desperation. One marginal note wails. Day 43. Master Liu's annotations now fuzzy with mushroom spores. Send help. Historians still debate whether the fifth hour evaporation rule prevented spoilage or just gave clerks an excuse to nap. Modern recreations prove water does vanish faster then, but only if you chant 7th century tax hymns while measuring. Coincidence? You try humming one. The scribe beside you joins in. Efficiency spike unconfirmed. Here's the scandal: someone's smuggling peach pit ink into the bureau. Its bitter almond stench betrays every culprit. Improves focus, argues a renegade with stained teeth. He offers you a illicit drip on your tongue. Tastes like rat poison's edgy cousin. You decline. He shrugs, licks his brush tip, and annotates a treatise on apricot blossom dews, coquettish viscosity. A commotion erupts near the cedar shelves. 2 archivists duel with feather dusters over a misplaced codex. You filed midnight cypress dew under lunar eclipses again. Screeches one. The other counters. Eclipse dew's obviously an astral event. Their supervisor naps through it, mask askew, snoring into a scroll titled proper, bow angles for harvesting mist. You pocket a discarded scrap. Its frayed edge whispers, warning, avoid dew from newlyweds' gardens. Prone to sentimental aftertaste. Solid advice. Your aunt's wedding tent sangria still haunts you. Dusk bleeds through rice paper windows. Scribes begin their oddest ritual reading inventories, allowed to tuck the dew into sleep. Monotone voices drone. 6 jars of 4th hour plum, 3 amphorae of It's Hypnotic. You catch yourself mouthing along. The head scribe winks, slides you a tablet. For insomnia, he insists. The wax seal smells like lavender and lies. Check the storage cellar later. Jars line shelves like dewy infantry, labeled with poems instead of dates. One Croc's tag declares, born under thunder's drum, handle with hands that have known lightning. You obey. The liquid inside crackles against the glass. A crash upstairs. Someone forgot to weigh a volatile cypress batch. Greenish mist crawls down the ladder. The scribes scatter. You escape with a scroll snippet in your sleeve, its characters blurred by centuries of ambitious humidity. It reads, best harvests occur when the collector's heartache mirrors the dew's reluctance to fall. Outside, fireflies mimic lost droplets. You hum that tax him again, just in case, and wonder how history will misremember tonight. Maybe as a footnote, maybe as liturgy. The road home smells of ink and peaches, left too long in the sun. The alley reeks of spilled mercury and broken promises. You step over a shattered crucible, crusted with gold leaf dreams. Alchemists once ruled these moonlit workshops, chasing immortality through poisons, until dew-collecting poets stole their clientele. Mainstream records confirm it. Tang elites swapped cinnabar pills for jasmine-infused dew tea around 839 CE. Mortality rates improved slightly. Your sleeve snags on a rusted athanor, those tower-like ovens alchemists adored. Inside, cobwebs cradle a forgotten recipe. Lunar dew plus, powdered moonstone, plus tears of a 3-legged toad. quirky fact. Some nutjobs still hunt those amphibians near Xi'an, claim they're the Alchemy Guild's final curse. A voice rasps from a shadowed doorway. Don't breathe near the vermilion vats unless you fancy growing a third eyebrow. You freeze. The speaker emerges, a woman robed in soot-stained hemp, clutching a dew jar labeled harvested during Emperor Xianzong's worst hair day. She spits. We used to transmute lead into gold. Now you transmute dawn moisture into rent money, you guess. She glares, proud and petty, before vanishing into fumes. Her workshop walls tell the tale. Peeling murals show alchemists morphing into tea merchants, dragons becoming teapots. Historians still argue whether the dew craze genuinely dethroned Mercury, or if the alchemists just repackaged their snake oil. Exhibit A, a faded poster reading elixir of celestial clarity, now with 30% fewer deaths. You pocket a dubious pamphlet titled Dew Distillation. Gateway to the fifth hell. The back room stinks of desperation and overripe melons. A bankrupt alchemist demonstrates modern techniques straining pond scum through his dead mentor's beard. The hairs add metaphysical filtration. He insists. You nod, slowly backing toward a shelf of moon-ripened dew jugs. One oozes something neon. You'd rather drink a tax collector's tears. Outside, poets loiter like vultures, their bamboo dew traps ready to loot any alchemical runoff. Rebranding's everything, one whispers. I market mine as essence of regrettable life choices. Aristocrats lap it up. His buddy brags about stealing a recipe for widow's eyelash dew, which you're 80% sure is just roof runoff. Midnight bell tolls. Workshops flush their waste sluices, opalescent sludge that glows hotter than a concubine's side-eye. A poet dips his cup into the stream. Crystallized ambition. He toasts, then grimaces, tastes like regret and bad credit. His gag reflex offers a standing ovation. Dawn cracks the sky. You find the alchemist face sans third eyebrow. She's trading her last cinnabar stash for a poet's least defective jar. Their haggle is pure theater. She mocks his unrefined palate. He accuses her of elemental jealousy. They settle. The jar's label warns, best consumed during existential crises. As you leave, a reformed poison mixer offers a sample, dew-aged in a reformed warlord's helmet. Safety not guaranteed, he winces. You sip. Hints of iron pettiness, and something almost hopeful. It burns less than last week's peach pit ink. Progress. Maybe. The East Market clock tower drips condensation that no one's quick enough to catch, though 3 alchemists lurk below with nets. Your boots squelch homeward. Somewhere, an Imperial pharmacist writes a scathing review of dew-based medicine, using ink made from the very same. History's a gambler, always recycling its chips. The wind carries an errant petal that sticks to your cheek, wet, with something too slight to harvest. You let it linger. The air thins as boots crush gravel from a path. No map claims, each step scraping away layers of pretense. You're in crane territory now, where poets once trained those long-necked snobs to pluck dew from cloud-slicked leaves. Mainstream history pins this madness to Mount Hua slopes. 8th century elites, insisting altitude, lent their tea crisper regrets. A rusted cage creaks ahead, its bamboo bars bent by centuries of avian contempt. Inside, fossilized crane dung sports a warning sign. Droppings of disapproval handle with existential caution. Quirky detail. Rumor says disgruntled birds pecked collectors, eyes to steel dew jars. Hence the expression, crane's critique. You pocket a mildewed scroll titled Avian Labor Laws of 812 CE. Unenforced. Altitude's a lie, hisses a voice from a lichen-stained shrine. A hermit shuffles forward, his robe patched with tea-stained poetry. Lee by himself wrote lowland, dew hugs the tongue like a drunk's confession, until his patron funded a summer palace up here. The man spits, convenient morality follows the money. You trace a carved poem on a boulder, each character worn smooth by resentful fingertips. Purists argued peak, dew lacked earth's breath, forcing brewers to add honeyed lies. Traditionalists fired back, claiming valley droplets reeked of peasant feet and poor decisions. Historians still argue whether this feud tanked 3 poetry schools or just inflated scroll prices for cranky scholars. A gust nearly steals your hat, thin air's petty vengeance. By the cliff's edge, a weathered tea set waits. The pot stained with tannins and pettiness, its cups chipped by rivalry-fueled toasts. You imagine dueling poets here, one flinging a brew over the edge. Let the cranes judge, they'd shout. Birds did, by shitting on both their heads. Index fossils linger, a broken spoon engraved property of high-altitude dew collective. No valley rats allowed. Nearby, a dented basin bears claw marks. Modern hikers use it to wash socks. Unaware, it once held the sacred tears of conflicted clouds. Dusk brings distorted bird calls, cranes mocking from mist. Their ancestors colluded in this mess, you realize. Scrolls hint they'd spill highland dew on purpose, sabotaging harvests to watch humans bicker. Smart bastards. The hermit reappears, offering murky tea in a cup mended with goat glue. Peak or valley, he challenges. You sip. It tastes like river mud and identity crisis. Both, you lie. He nods impressed or fooled and vanishes into the fog. Moonlight reveals a hidden altar, stone steps littered with jade dew vials. Most are cracked, their labels faded to spiteful ghosts. One intact jar reads for emperor's use only, if he admits mountain dew is superior. You pocket it. The monarchy fell 12 centuries ago. Sue you. Wind carries a forgotten couplet. Why chase clouds when mud nourishes roots? Followed by graffiti. Because clouds don't taste like your mother-in-law's pond scum. Classy. By sunrise, your lungs ache from thin air and thinner arguments. Descending, you pass a monk chiseling a boulder. His message, do as dew. Beneath it, fresh carvings lies. And fight me, brother. Progress, maybe. A vendor at the base sells authentic peak dew from a gas station-style pump. You decline. His sign winks. Taste the altitude. Side effects: dizziness, delusions of grandeur. A poet with a clipboard rates each customer's purity of essence. He gives you a 3, harsh but fair. Last stop, a bridge where rival factions once dueled with teapots. The stone still bears a stain shaped like a screaming duck. Legends say it's 7th century Lee's shame. He used lukewarm water during a showdown. Poetic justice. His nickname became Tepid Lee till he switched to barley wine. The river below reflects your face, wrinkled by ripples into someone else's ancestor. You drop the stolen emperor's vial. It sinks, air bubbles rising like tiny, indignant ghosts. Dusk paints the riverbank copper, your stolen vials, bubbles long gone. But upstream, lanterns bob like drunken fireflies. You follow. The air thickens with fermented plum and teenage defiance. Ah, here's the rebellion. 6 scowling elders block a moonlit tea house, robes quivering like angry jellyfish. Inside, poets your age clink jade cups. One winks, her sleeves rolled up to reveal smuggled jars labeled Grandma's plum wine. Don't tell Master Way. Mainstream records confirm this. By 840 CE, half the Imperial court's teens were steeped in Duwine hybrids. Emperor Wuzong's temper tantrum about degenerate brews fills 3 scrolls, 2 of them wine-stained. A lanky bard sloshes his cup at you. Tastes like heaven punched a fruit tree. His brews bouquet. Jasmine dew cut with something that make a nun blush. Quirky fact: rebels hid wine in hollowed bamboo poles, claiming they were dew measuring sticks for altitude calibration. Sure, scroll fragments found in Luyang describe bribery schemes involving plum farmers and accidental wine spills into imperial duvats. Elders bang bronze gongs, robbing heaven's tears to feed demons. They chant. One lunges, tripping on his own ethics lecture. The room explodes in giggles. You spy a scroll titled 37 Ways to Spike Tea Without Getting Caught. Hint: blame the cranes. Someone's drawn cartoons in the margins, elderly scholars as grumpy mushrooms. A girl shoves a cup into your hand. Try the midnight blend, 3rd hour dew, 5th hour rebellion. It hits your tongue like a forbidden picnic, honeyed grass and stolen cherries. Historians still argue whether these poets genuinely loved the taste or just craved watching their teachers turn purple. Outside, a merchant's donkey brays, its saddlebags stuffed with contraband apricot brandy. For medicinal purposes, the owner insists, winking like a swamp imp. His permit's forged. Obviously, the seal reads Official Dew Inspectorate, Division of Absolutely Not Wine, we swear. Someone lights a firework, a screeching phoenix that dies mid-sneeze. The explosion scares cranes into dropping a dew jar. It shatters, releasing fumes that smell suspiciously like a grape orchard sweat. See, an elder wails. Even birds disrespect tradition now. A whistle pierces the chaos. Imperial guards. Gluggers dive out windows, splashing into the river like caffeinated otters. You're left holding an empty cup and a choice. Hide in a rice barrel, too obvious. Climb the oak. Its branches sag with rebellious undergrads already. You freeze until a hand yanks you into a hidden cellar. The air reeks of yeast and regret. First time, a voice grins. It's the plum wine girl, her hair now dyed pink with crushed peonies. She gestures to a cauldron bubbling with dubious liquid. Working on a new blend, persimmon dew, and distractions. The guard's footsteps fade unaware of the moldy trapdoor you're under. Elders outside lecture frogs about the sanctity of unmixed beverages. The girl rolls her eyes. They just hate fun and flavor. She offers a tasting spoon, syrupy chaos that makes your sinuses sing opera. You cough. She nods proudly. Demons would love this. Dawn leaks through cracks, signaling curfew's end. The girl shoves a flask into your pocket. For the road, don't let grandpas steal your sparkle. You exit into a world where sparrows critique your hangover and vendors sell hangover dew, mostly vinegar. The river winks, a submerged wine jar glittering like aquatic contraband. You kick a pebble. Plunk. Ripples spread, each one a tiny revolution. Mulberry sap glues your sandals to the path, each sticky step whispers the groves are near. You pause. Night air carries the musk of overworked silkworms and caramel. Mainstream history confirms it. Tang Dynasty silk farms imported white mulberries by the cartload, leaves fed to hungry larvae. Luxury spun from gluttony, but scrolls from Chang'an's ruins tell a juicier tale. Ahead, lanterns dangle like trapped fireflies, guards patrol rows of trees. Their shadows stretch and shrink, miming some never-learned their lines play. Between the trunks, figures dart, black-robed, bamboo ladles in hand. Third shifts the sweetest, a voice hisses. Your nose twitches. Those aren't leaves rustling, it's the clink-clink of dew being scraped into jade vials. Silkworm keepers first noticed it. Their groves dew tasted, oddly honeyed. Coincidence? Maybe, but when Empress Shangsun's tea master paid triple for mulberry-touched droplets, the thefts began. Quirky tidbit. Thieves licked tree trunks to find the best spots. Their tongues turned purple for weeks. One manuscript describes a black market code. Melon seeds left in specific patterns marked high sugar trees. A guard yawns, his helmet slips over his eyes. You slip past. The grove feels sticky. Not just from sap, the air itself clings like half-dried syrup. Moonlight paints the leaves mercury silver. Touch one, a droplet glides onto your finger. You taste iron first, then burnt honey. Too low, someone mutters. Above you, a thief straddles a branch, dipping a ladle into a leaf's curve. Fifth node up, or it's bitter. His palms stained eggplant purple, a telltale sign of midnight harvests. Historians still argue whether the dew's sweetness came from mulberry enzymes or centuries of silkworm spit. Modern labs found traces of glucose, but Tang poets swore it was bee vomit gifted by the moon. Crunch. A guard steps on a twig. The thief freezes. You duck behind a trunk, oozing sap that smells like regret. The guard sniffs, then wanders off, scratching his armpit. Priorities. New here. The thief drops beside you, offering a vial. Try the premium stuff top canopy, 2 hours before dawn. It's thick. Swallowing feels like drinking a comet's tail, smoky, sweet, with a kick that numbs your molars. You cough. He grins. Better than lotus dew, right? No need to answer your face, says everything. A silk weaver's journal found in Yangzhou details the scale. 14 quarts stolen from Lady Ling's grove last August. Her tears ruined 3 rolls of brocade. The culprits, poetry students with forged due inspector badges. Their punishment, writing apology verses in genuine mulberry dew ink. Wind shifts, the caramel scent sharpens into something medicinal. Fireflies swarm a gnarled tree, no, not fireflies. Tiny glass jars tied to branches, each holding a flickering candle. Old trick, your thief friend sneers. Merchants fake dawn's glow to trick amateurs into harvesting early. Rookie juice tastes like pickle brine. Someone screams. A novice thief slips, dousing himself in stolen dew. His skin glistens under moonlight, then attracts every mosquito in the province. Classic, your companion snorts. Should rubbed garlic on his ankles. Everyone knows that. 3 quick whistles echo, the signal to scatter. Guards finally noticed the singing crickets are actually coughs. You sprint, ankles wrapped in spider silk, probably mulberry branches, snag your sleeve, whispering, stay, stay. The grove doesn't like losing its sweat. A ditch, you leap and face plant into cold mud. It smells like yesterday's tea dregs. Behind you, guards argue. Was that a thief or a really ambitious frog? Dawn bleeds through the trees. The thief gone. In your fist, a single leaf folded into a cup, a drop gleaming in its belly. You sip. Morning's first dew, untouched by scams or saliva. It tastes like water, just water. Maybe the magic was in the stealing, not the sip. Or maybe you just chose a bad leaf. Somewhere, a silkworm munches. Somewhere, a poetry student glues mulberry sap to his teacher's chair. The grove keeps its secrets sticky and sweet and a little bit stolen. Your sandals make peeling noises as you walk, each step a goodbye. You'll miss this place, or maybe that's just the syrup talking. Farmers arrive, nodding at your purple-stained palms. They know. Everyone knows. Tonight's dew will vanish too, scooped up by dreamers convinced it's sweeter than tomorrow's. You tuck the leaf cup into your belt, a souvenir or future evidence. Myths gotta start somewhere. A child runs past clutching a jar. Got the last drop, he crows. You don't mention the caterpillar floating in it. Let him have the win. By noon, his pants will be glued to a bench anyway. The sun climbs hot and judgmental. You shade your eyes and spot it. A single dewdrop clinging to a spider web, quivering like a punchline waiting for its setup. You lean in plop. It lands on your chin, mocking gravity and empires equally. You let it linger. Rebellion comes in many flavors. Today's sticky. Wind carries the last sticky sweet note of mulberry groves, then slams you with grit. You're north now, way north. Frost paints your eyebrows white as a badger's pelt. Mainstream history knows this place. The Tang Dynasty's dumping ground for disgraced officials. Exiles wrote poetry here, verses sharper than wolf teeth, brewed with dew that bites back. Your hands crack as you crouch. The spring puddle before you isn't water, it's ice shards, floating in liquid spite. A rock sits beside it, worn smooth by 1,000 desperate palms. You've read the accounts. Banished scholars dunked linen strips into these pools, wringing out droplets, while their breath crystallized into ghost verses. Quirky tidbit, they'd rank dew sources like wine vintages. Snowmelt ponds scored lowest too, insipid. But frost-heaved rocks at dawn, those got stars scratched into cave walls. A marmot chitters, its tone P-U-R-E, Chinese letter. You mimic it. Marmot freezes. Marmot reconsiders life choices. Somewhere, a lute string snaps. They always do up here. The best dew forms northwest of the campfire smoke, always. You learn this the hard way, scooping a leaf cup of what tastes like licked armor. Your tongue goes numb. Exile poetry makes sudden sense. You'd write angsty couplets too, if this was your breakfast. You spot them, older depressions in the rocks. Fingernail grooves worn smooth. Historians still argue whether the bitter tea fueled rebellion or just sour constipation. Scroll fragments found in Xinjiang hint at both. One complains of bowels locked tighter than the Jade Gate Pass. Another brags of a poem so incendiary it melted the governor's door seal. Ice glints. You press a hand to the rock, feel quartz teeth beneath the frost. The exile's trick, wrap linen around fist. Punch ice until knuckles bleed. Dip frozen cloth into cracks where dawn's first light strikes. Wring it, tinkling droplets fill a bowl softer than your future. Taste test. Your eyes water. It's like drinking a sword, all cold fury and metal aftertaste. But then, a thrum. Your spine straightens. The marmot's mocking chirp now sounds manageable. This dew didn't just sharpen minds, it weaponized them. No wonder censors banned northern tea verses. Those poems could have toppled pagodas. A shadow falls. You freeze. But it's just a torn scrap of paper, snagged on a thorn-faded ink screaming. When the moon licks rocks, even beggars become kings. Exile Poetry 101. Subtlety dies at altitude. Digging reveals a broken jar, glazed green, same as ones found in turpan tombs. Inside, a rat's nest woven from poetry fragments. One scraps less nibbled, 3 sips of rage, 2 of regret. Why does the emperor's face haunt my chamber pot? Classic. Wind yodels through a canyon, nature's own shitty review. You pocket the scrap. Marmot approves. Or maybe it's having a seizure. Hard to tell. Campfire smoke tugs you downhill. Exiles weren't dumb. They smuggled ginger to cut the dew's bite. Found a recipe scratched into a butcher's cleaver. steep with wild onions, 3 crushed lies, and a whisper of forgiveness. Directions unclear. Your attempt tastes like regret soup. Night falls the real show. Legends claim frost dew harvested during wolf howls held extra potency. You wait. Stars prick the sky. A chorus of howls erupts. Turns out foxes, imitating wolves, imitating heartbreak. Close enough. Scoop, squeeze, drink. Fire floods your veins. The northern lights ripple, or maybe you're just dizzy. Either way, you compose a mental verse. Frozen tea scrubs the soul raw thank you. May I have another? Post it to Chang'an's poetry board, and you'd get exiled on principle. Dawn finds you chewing pine resin, exile breath mints. Your teeth feel filed, your thoughts razored. You finally understand why Governor Zhu's last words were boil the curtains, they're the emperor's ears. Paranoia pairs well with metallic aftertastes. You carve a glyph into ice, the marmot's face. Art, the exiled would approve, or they'd mock you for simplistic technique. Either way, you've left a mark. Unlike poor Bai Xingjian, forgotten poet his entire overmelted into a single ice chunk last spring. Descending hurts. Knees creak like ungreased rebellion. Halfway down, you spot them modern tea shops selling Exile's Resolve blend. Taste the danger. It's oolong with edible glitter. You sigh. The marmot laughs. History's a cannibal. It eats its bitter truths. Then excretes souvenir mugs. A raven shrieks. You shriek back. Improv poetry's contagious here. Ravens have better rhymes. Your knife slips as you slice pine needles. Dew collector's hands never lie. A lie. Your hands are numb, but the cut reveals amber sap sticky mirror of that mulberry grove syrup. North and south, bound by sweetness and spite. One last Hail Mary dew scoop. No linen, you use your sleeve. The drops melt your sleeve threads. Also your resolve. You spit. But here's the secret. Exile's added salt. Just a pinch to mimic tears. Found in their urns, crystallized at the bottom. Experts call it preservation gravel. Romantics know better. The marmot watches you lick a rock. No shame. Hunger's the best spice. Tang bureaucrats denied Exile's pepper, called it morally inflaming. Jokes on them. Nothing's hotter than stolen midnight dew. Find a half-buried poem crusted with wolf lichen. I drink the sky's spit and call it nectar lie enough, and even gods believe. Signed with a thumbprint. Authenticity confirmed the Worrell's match, a finger bone found in 1998. You pocket it, future use problem. Present you needs warmth. Fire's band here dulls the dew's edge, so you jog in circles. Marmot jogs too, away from you. Setting sun paints the crags blood orange. Exiles wrote their best lines now when the horizon looked like a fresh bruise. You try. Stained teeth, stained scrolls, the moon's a pale copycat. Delete. By twilight, your water skin holds 3 gulps of liquid resolve. You'll need it. Ahead the Silk Road, buzzing with merchants selling authentic exile tea bricks. Last month, customs seized a shipment stuffed with yak butter. Some truths stay buried. Moonrise. You dip a finger into your precious brew, flick a droplet westward. Old ritual. The marmot copies you, hits a beetle. Progress. Your breath fogs the air, lingers, becomes a temporary verse. Steal the sky's sweat. Sell the empire's rage. Welcome to the Tang freelance economy. Not bad. Might etch it into a boulder. Might get food poisoning instead. The northern dew decides. You swig the rest. Your throat burns, twin flames, moonlight, and madness. But nightshade perfume envelops you now. Lotus shoes crunch gravel in a garden forgotten by maps. You're no exile here. You're a ghost slipping through Lady Yang's private pavilion, where maids once scraped dew from peaches with gold combs. Mainstream history records this. The emperor's favorite consort bathed in chrysanthemum, due to keep her skin moon-touched. Scrolls claim her rivals drank vinegar to mimic dew's glow. Their teeth dissolved by spring equinox. Your fingers brush a crumbling trough, marble lined with lapis lazuli. 12 drain holes, one for each concubine who tried stealing her recipe. Quirky tidbit uncovered last century. Court chemists added crushed firefly bellas to her dew baths. Glowed for hours. New brides paid smugglers for starlight tincture, got frog spawn instead. A cicada rasps, no, a snore, behind a screen embroidered with drowning swans. A eunuch naps atop stolen peach blossom jars. His ledger lies open. Fourth moon, 30 drops sold to Lady Wu complains it makes her sweat pearls. Historians still argue whether Yang's dew killed her or just made her death poetic, skin shining through the strangling silk rebel blades, flashing, crowd cheering rot, disguised as righteousness. You dip a stolen spoon into a cracked urn. The dew's thick, honey gone wrong. Tastes like dead flowers and propaganda. Yang's secret wasn't purity, it was bitterness. Scandal. Palace records show she steeped wormwood in her tea, told the emperor it sharpened her laughter. Dawn creeps a guilty lover. You freeze as voices hiss beyond the wall. 16 coppers per vial, last offer. This dew's from her own grove. A shuffle. A slap. Every dynasty has its hustlers. Beside a wilted peony, you find a child's sandal. Carved inside, Mama says the dew vat eats bad girls. Underneath, tiny teeth marks. Yang reportedly punished clumsy maids by bathing them in scorpion-infused dew. Their screams were called songbirds practicing high notes. A drop lands on your neck cold as a widow's kiss. The pavilion ceiling weeps. Gilded dragons drip, tarnished dew green as jealousy. You catch some in a phoenix-shaped cup. Sip, its vinegar brewed through grief. The docs never mentioned Yang's vinegar tears could etch bronze. No wonder her portraits all look furious. Half-burned scrolls in a brazier reveal the real recipe. Deer-antler scrapings, jade powder, 3 drops of owl blood. Dissolve in dawn dew gathered by maids, unkissed by sunlight. You check the jar labels. One reads, Nightsel carrier's leftover sweat, distilled. Imperial skincare, was never glamorous. You pocket a hairpin crusted with sap, supposedly Yang's. Tests in 2007 proved it belonged to a court butcher. Poetic, really. Empires rise on such lies. The eunuch stirs. You duck beneath a tapestry of drowning unicorns. It smells of mold and myrrh. His ledger flutters open to a damning entry. 5th moon. Imperial physician orders arsenic laced dew for crown prince's acne. Yang's signature loops beneath a viper's coil. Ants march across a spilled droplets path, drunk on fermented glory. You follow them to a dried up fountain. Its basin carvings tell the truth. Concubines spiking each other's dew with nettles. Yang's cheeks weren't blushed with youth, just rashes. The garden gate groans. Time evaporates. You stash a petal-thin jade jar beneath your robe. It hums against your ribs. Later, tourists will call it, probably reproduction. You'll know its weight, how history bends under stolen grace. Moonlight fades. Somewhere, a current emperor sips supermarket oolong, oblivious. Yang's last laugh lingers in the steam, shrill and shimmering, a dagger wrapped in silk. You slip through crumbling temple gates, moss gnawing at dragon carvings. Morning chants vibrate through your sandals. But where are the chants coming from? 3 monks kneel by a stone cistern, their tea bowls suspiciously steamless. Zen purity has rules, right? Rule 1, mountain springs only. Rule 2, to collection is earthly vanity. Rule 3, well, rules are flexible before dawn. A novice scurries past, sandal-clad feet slapping stone. His robes bulge. You catch the glint of a jade funnel. Same tool Tang poets used to siphon leaf beads. Ironies, a bitter brew. These same monks banned laypeople from due rites last century called it sipping from desire's teat. Official records claim abbots drank only snowmelt. Yet here, this cistern's carvings tell tales. Lotus petals, cicada wings, symbols for hidden moisture. You crouch behind a bell forged from melted poetry plaques. The chief monk face, like a withered persimmon, stirs the cistern with a willow rod. Liquid swirls, too viscous for spring water. His lips move, 7 layers of clarity, 3 breaths of mist. A recipe ripped straight from Bai Jui's forbidden tea scrolls. Classic monk hypocrisy, preaching detachment while hoarding luxuries. Wind carries the scent of roasted barley and wet slate. That's your clue. Follow the moss. Through a crescent-shaped doorway, rusted iron groaning, you find the real stash. Jars line niches in the wall, labeled in temple code. Dragon hour, phoenix sigh, widow's lament. Each holds dew stolen from poets' gardens. A 1983 excavation proved this. Tiantai Monastery's cellars hid bronze sieves, matching descriptions in Tang court indictments. A giggle echoes. 2 novices play dice by a leaking barrel. Brother Fungus bets 10 drops of midnight blossom, double if it's from the mulberry grove. They're using teacups as chips. One drips amber fluid, distinct lack of mountain spring transparency. You almost respect the hustle. Sudden silence. The chief monk appears a shadow with toenails yellowed like old parchment. He dips a ladle into the nearest jar, sips, closes his eyes, pine needles and desperation. Third-rate harvest. The novices tremble. Due criticism cuts deeper than swords, apparently. You linger too long. A hand clamps your shoulder calluses like gravel, seeking enlightenment, or someone's private stash. The gardener monk smells of compost and cunning. His teeth gleam silver. 5 coppers to taste last night's haul. 10 if you want the convincing lie. The lie turns out to be spring water dyed with walnut husks. The real stuff burns your tongue, electric, like licking a storm cloud. Chan masters called this mouthfeel dragon's breath. Historians still argue whether monasteries hoarded due to beat poets at their own game, or to rewrite heaven's flavor palette. A gong shatters the hush. Jars vanish into floor compartments. Novices chant louder forced innocence. The chief monk strides past, now carrying a bamboo cup that reeks of authenticity. Hypocrite, you pocket a cork stained with maple sap residue. Evidence, or just a souvenir? Moonlight leads you to the temple's sacred spring, a trickle feeding into a rusty grate. Peer closer. Frog eggs float in the shallows. So much for purity. The gardener monk materializes again, grinning. Catch more demons with sweet water. He drops a pebble into the pool. Ripples form characters. Steal, cheat, transcend. Dawn's first rays expose dew on spiderwebs, uncollected. Poets would have wept. Monks just sweep them into dustpans. You spot a scroll, half buried in ash lists, comparing dew vintages to meditation depths. Fourth moon harvest induces visions of bleeding lotuses. Avoid during fasting. The breakfast bell rings, a sound like skulls cracking. Novices sprint past, their robes flapping like trapped birds. In the refectory, they'll sip barley tea and pretend their tongues don't itch for stolen delicacy. You slip out as the chief monk begins lecturing on the tyranny of taste. At the gate, a scrape of metal. The gardener monk tucks a vial into your sleeve. From the mulberry grove, he whispers, smuggle it to that drunken poet by the river. He'll trade 3 decent couplets for it. Even ascetics have their addictions. The vial warms against your wrist. Somewhere a poet starves, a monk lies, a droplet trembles. Balance restored. You walk south as temple bells fade, each peal ringing with smuggled rainbows. The vial hums in your sleeve, not with magic, but bees. Mulberry dew's cloying sweetness oozes through the cork. A winged sentinel lands on your wrist, judging. Follow her zigzag flight south, past rice fields where farmers mimic dew gathering with dawn-damp rags, bootleg mourning. Apiaries loom woven bamboo hives shaped like pagodas. Smoke blooms as a keeper waves smoldering mugwort. Steady now, little emperors. His mask dangles, revealing a honey-smudged grin. Tang records show hives near Chang'an produced 36 tons of honey, yearly taxed by the jar. This operation's smaller, shadier, lost petal plucker. The keeper blocks your path, bamboo spatula glistening. Behind him, a hive drips gold, streaks of blue swirling in the comb. Lotus pollen. Your mulberry vial trembles, chemistry calling to chemistry. 5 coppers to sniff, 10 to taste, 20 if you want the hint of regret. You pay double. The honey hits floral, then metallic, like licking a poet's inkstone. Bees hit the dew ponds at second bell, the keeper boasts, scratching a scarred neck. Best workers in the biz. Trained myself, bribed with jasmine sugar. Historians still argue whether the fabled lotus honey was accidental or a Swan Palace chef's mad experiment. A shout ruptures the buzz. Bandits. Apprentices sprint past, waving bamboo rods. Their quarry. A student in ink-stained robes, half a honeycomb jutting from his satchel. Classic poetry major move. 8th century scrolls complain about hive-raiding scholars who traded stolen combs for rhyme dictionaries. You duck behind a fermentation vat. The keepers spatula splats against a pear tree, impaling a scroll titled Ode to Thievery. Air thickens with vengeance. And burnt sugar. Someone's overstimulating the smoke pot. A shadow tugs your elbow. The thief, honey matting his beard, panting. Trade. He jabs a finger at your vial. Mountain Dew grade. No monk piss blend. His palm offers a wax lump, embedded with wing fragments. Worker bee grub, sweeter than concubine sweat. You decline. He shrugs, devouring the grub whole. Dusk complicates things. Hives glow amber under paper lanterns. Workers chant harvest songs, off-key. Your vial's nearly empty, but your fingers stick to everything. Eavesdrop on 2 keepers arguing over ledgers. 5th, hive's production halved since the poetry exams. Ash Ming's kids applying. Coincidence. They curse scholars who corrupt pollinators with decadent verse. Nightfall unveils the real magic. Moonlight ignites dew ponds, silver ripples beckoning bees. They dart hungrily, but recoil from lotus pads, too bitter raw. Ah, the trick. You spot troughs of rainwater steeping fallen petals. Fermented temptation. A bee drifts drunkenly, wings dusted with makeshift nectar. By 3rd bell, hives thrum with discontent. Louder, the keeper paces, masked again. Someone spiked the feeder troughs. A novice mumbles into his collar. Poetry students promised them enhanced creativity. A lie so obvious, even the bees pause mid-buzz. You pocket a honeycomb chunk, ethical, questionable. The label reads rainy season melancholy. Perfect. Down the road, lanterns flicker over a roadside stall. A poet slumps there, clutching an empty cup. Slide the comb across the table. His bloodshot eyes widen. Trade for verse. He inhales the honey. Scribbles. Hollow hives hum hymns to thieves of liquid sun. Weak, but the vial, now full of something new, thicker. The gardener monk's friend will approve. As you leave, the apiary's chaos fades into cricket song. Let historians debate honey's morals. Your sleeve's a sticky testament to better questions, like how much lotus do it takes to bribe a bee? or a monk, or tomorrow. Dew clings to cobwebs like abandoned poetry, strung between peach branches in this derelict orchard. You tread carefully, spider silk harps hum underfoot. Moonlight fractures in each droplet. Locals say these are verses poets, never finished, their sighs fossilized in liquid. A child's rhyme drifts from the next hill. Unwritten words drink moonlight, grow teeth by the third night. Your sleeve still sticks from the apiary honey, a nuisance, till you spot it, a dew strand stuck to your wrist, translucent, glowing faintly blue. Brush it off. Too late. It melts into your skin, tastes regrettably cinematic, like drinking a ghost's unfinished confession. 8th century scrolls mention Tang officials pouring spirit dew into ceremonial urns, but neglected to warn about haunted orchards. A breeze riffles the trees. Cobwebs become wind chimes, each droplet ringing a different pitch. High notes slice like badly tuned pipas. Historians still argue whether these tailies were coded protests against imperial censors or just drunk poets projecting. You lean closer. A droplet quivers, its surface warps into a face maybe yours, maybe someone's great-great-grandfather's. Crunch. A half-rotted peach, oozing fermented nectar. Flies circle it, drunk and sentimental. That's when you notice the dewdrops here don't reflect. They absorb. Your lantern's flame dims as a fat droplet swells above, swallowing light like a miniature black hole. You recall a peasant's warning at the last tea stall. Harvest moon devs haunt orchards where gatherers slacked. The proof: cobwebs spun in perfect couplet patterns, 2 lines intersecting, a tercet dangling below. One strand holds iridescent blobs, 5 in a row. A failed quatrain. A giggle snaps your neck around. A kid perches on a broken wall, maybe 12, maybe 60. Hard to tell with that smirk. She hurls a pebble, shattering a droplet 3 trees over. That one rhymed jade with persuade, lame. Her basket's full of blue-black mulberries and suspiciously few spiders. They're better when sour, she says, tossing you a berry. It bursts, tastes like regret and cheap ink. Old-timers use 'em to dye mourning clothes, which tracks. She points to a cobweb streaked with rusty droplets, Libo's last draft, scribbled while barfing up plum wine. You ask how she knows. He told me, duh. Archaeologists found Tang tombs with cobweb motifs carved into tea sets. But this kid, probably just messing with you. She skips off, humming that eerie rhyme. 5 steps away, she dissolves into mist. Or maybe a trick of the lantern. Your boot crushes a fallen branch, the sound echoing too long. Shadows thicken, liquid, alive. A droplet lands on your neck, cold, intentional. When you turn, nothing but swaying webs, then laughter from every direction, high, hollow, harmonizing. A cobweb brushes your cheek. Its droplets bead into characters. Regret tastes sweeter when stolen. Classic Tang humblebrag. You pocket a strand. It disintegrates like wet calligraphy. By dawn, The orchard's just an orchard. Sunlight fries the mystery, leaving only sticky air and a mulberry stain shaped like a closing bracket. The next tea house overserves. Ghost's breath brew. Steam curls into skeletal faces. You order two. Historians still argue whether Tang poets believed their own ghost stories. But the real question's simpler. Who's laughing when your tea leaves form a smile? Steam curls from your cup, shaping itself into a leering grin. You sip cautiously, expecting ectoplasm. But it's just overpriced oolong. The tea house owner leans in, his breath smells of burnt honey. Heard the one about Farmer Huang. He wipes the counter with a rag dyed peach blossom pink. Sold heaven's dew to Chang'an nobles for 20 years, all while pumping well water through a donkey's kidneys. Outside, carts rattle past carrying rice sacks stamped with imperial seals. A drunk scholar mutters about vinegar taxes. You catch phrases like liquid counterfeits and peach blossom scams. The owner slams down a clay jar, its surface sweating like a guilty bureaucrat. Real dew collectors froze their asses on mountaintops, while Huang's crew brewed theirs in rusty vats. Rice wine, well sludge, a squeeze of sour plum, called it the people's ambrosia. A fly drowns in your tea. The owner flicks it out with calloused fingers. Added peach petals for color, tossed in ox blood when inspectors came, gave it that authentic metallic tang. His laugh sounds like a clogged drain. Historians confirm it during the Tianbao era. Imperial audits exposed 13 dew forgery rings. Peasants even buried jars to fake aged blends. City connoisseurs swore blindfolded they tasted lotus, not fermented millet. The owner's version gets wilder. Huang's daughter posed as a mountain goddess, sold moon-blessed, dew at triple price, danced in silver body paint, threw flour in the air for celestial glitter. Naked as a jaybird, they say. You cough. A stained scroll on the wall details dew purity laws. Article 4 forbids mammalian byproducts in celestial harvests. Scholars still bicker over whether 5% or 50% of peach blossom dew was genuine. The owner spits into a brass spittoon. Huang got caught 'cause he got greedy. Started bottling canal runoff during droughts. Customers got the runs. One dude wrote a poem about it. Autumn cramps gripping my guts / counterfeit skywater turns to sluts' cuts. A child outside hawks authentic peasant dew in hollowed gourds. You ask the owner why anyone fell for it. He shrugs. Same reason your ghost tea's so damn popular. People want the lie. Tastes better than truth. Footsteps creak, upstairs delicate deliberate. The owner freezes. That be Huang's great-granddaughter. Still rents room 5 during peach season. He lowers his voice, leaves every dawn with a basket, comes back with wet sleeves. Don't ask where she goes. Later, stumbling into moonlight, you trip over a broken jar. Shards gleam wetly. Might be dew, might be rice wine. A woman's laugh trickles from the roof. She's crouched on the eaves, silk robes, hair full of peach petals, looking for authenticity. She dangles a vial over your head. Fluid inside glows like foxfire. 5 coppers, and I'll forget you called my ancestor a donkey-pissing swindler. You hesitate. She unstoppers the vial. The scent hits you, fermented, floral, faintly fecal. Relax. The donkey retired years ago. Her smile could etch glass. Modern recipe uses rainwater and cheating husband's tears. Secrets in the pH balance. Somewhere, a nightingale screams. She tosses the vial into your hands. It's warm, alive almost. Drink it at dawn or don't. Either way, you'll wake up changed. By the time you glance up, she's a silhouette peeling into mist. Back in your rented room, the vial sweats onto Buddhist sutras borrowed from the innkeeper. Your tongue mocks you, already imagining phantom flavors. Footsteps pass your door, pause, move on. When you finally sleep, dreams come in sepia tones. Farmers hauling well water under a bleeding sun. Women stirring vats of murky liquid, singing work songs out of tune. A magistrate's face swelling with rage, or maybe gout. Dawn cracks the sky like a dropped teacup. The vial winks on the windowsill. You're struck by a terrible truth. Huang's greatest trick wasn't fooling nobles. It was making generations prefer his swill over the real thing. The first sip confirms it, burnt honey and regret, with a finish of perfect irony. Somewhere a donkey brays. The owner sweeps his steps, whistling that same off-key work song. You spit the mouthful into a potted chrysanthemum. It dies before noon. The chrysanthemum's corpse droops, its petals curling into accusatory fists. You pocket the empty vial, still warm as the tea-house door creaks. That shattered jar from last night glints on the stairs, now cradling spiderwebs and what might be a mouse bone. The owner's broom freezes mid-swipe. Careful with those shards. Wang's men packed him with silk scraps to muffle spills. Sneakiest damn trick since Emperor Wen's tax reforms. You bend closer. Threads peek through pottery edges once white, now tea-stained brown. The owner spits. Not just any silk, woven by looms that made the empress's underrobes, stolen during the Lushan rebellion. Or so the tale goes. Historical records confirm it. 7th century weavers crafted special mesh trays to strain dew. Filtered water flowed clearer than a saint's conscience. A customer slams his cup down, licorice root tea sloshing over lotus-carved tables. My grandfather used river otter pelts, trapped impurities, and added musky notes. The owner rolls his eyes. Your grandfather also swore goat piss cured gout, died screaming about strawberry demons, didn't he? Upstairs, a door opens. Huang's descendant descends her hair, now braided with what looks like copper wire. She eyes the jar shards. Silk filters were a mistake. Too efficient, turned dew into dressed-up water. Her hands mimic scissors. Cut out the soul along with the dirt. Connoisseurs agreed once. 10th century scrolls rave about dew's coarse perfume and gritty truths. Merchants rebranded unfiltered blends as wild dew tripled prices. Purists howled. reformers rejoiced. Historians still argue whether the shift reflected changing tastes or a silk shortage caused by mute-worm infestations. The woman drops a moth-eaten cloth onto the counter, trapunto embroidery depicting battling cranes. Found this lining a gutter. Northern Wei Dynasty. See the double warp threads. They wove secret symbols into the mesh, curses against Imperial inspectors. She traces a pattern resembling fanged tadpoles. Grandmother swore our best batch came from a filter soaked in widow's tears, gave it weight. You lift the scrap, sunlight reveals faint stains in the weave. The owner snorts. Smells like mildew and bad decisions. Last guy who bought one of these woke up speaking backward Persian, had to pay a shaman and a scribe to fix him. Outside, a vendor shouts about unfiltered moon dew straight from the Jade Emperor's armpit. Tourists cluster, cooing over moss-crusted jars. Wang's descendant hisses through clenched teeth. Fools, true wild dew needs no gimmicks. Find a spirea bush after the third frost. Collect droplets before sparrows wake. Simple as breathing. Nothing's simple here. You learned that after the peach blossom fiasco. The owner polishes a mismatched teacup. Its cracks map Beijing's alleys. Silk or no silk, everyone cheats. Difference is, some stains improve the flavor. Rain taps the roof, sudden, insistent. Customers scramble to place bowls under leaks. The woman watches, amused. Modern version of dew collection. Half of Canton's doing this during monsoon season. Call it sky tapping. She unwraps a palm-sized silk square, pristine, shimmering. Latest trend. Filter the rainwater, age it in counterfeit Tang jars. Sell it back to Americans as ancient wellness brew. Historians weep somewhere. Your tongue still burns from last night's failed experiment. But curiosity is a persistent mold. You nod at her silk. How much? She smiles, all enamel and edges. For you, free. Just promise to describe the aftertaste. The cloth feels unnaturally cold. Woven by robots in Hangzhou, programmed with 9th century patterns. Hypoallergenic, vegan, blasphemous. Later, under a flickering bulba, you dip the silk into a puddle. Water trickles through, crystal beads dancing. It tastes like nothing, like everything, like centuries collapsing into a Walmart parking lot. Somewhere between sips, you realize perfection's just another scam we agreed to swallow. Your boots squelch through mud as storm drains cough up yesterday's rain. A brown river swallowing sidewalk cracks. Ahead, apartment lights reflect off flooded streets. Warped gold coins dancing on asphalt. Somewhere in this muck, a poet's ghost clutches his jars. History books skip the messy parts. You know the drill, Tang Dynasty flood of 755 AD, rebel armies, half-drowned cities, but scroll fragments from Dunhuang, cave mention a lesser drowning. Scholar Li Xian storing dew collection, urns in a cellar. Forgetting the canal ran uphill during monsoons, archaeologists found pottery shards cemented in 8th century silt, still smelling of pickled plums and regret. The tea shop owner's voice loops in your head. Never store due lower than your knees, unless you want verses floating face down. Ahead, a playground turned pond, swing chains clinking like broken wind chimes. Rumor says Li Xian's final poem surfaces here each September, ink swirling into characters only readable at dawn. Teenagers dare each other to wade in, phones wrapped in plastic, hunting for viral ghosts. Your flashlight beam catches something glinting under murk. Not a phone, a jar neck crusted with algae and what looks like sealing wax. Fish dart away, their tails rewriting the water's surface. Don't touch that. The warning comes from a silhouette under a dripping umbrella. Huang's descendant steps closer, her copper braids now green tarnished. Local kids call it Coughing Lake, swear it bubbles up couplets after heavy rains. She kicks a pebble ripples, distorting the submerged jungle gym. Last year, a TikTok kid claimed he saw the words autumn's breath stains teacups black. Got 2 million likes, then developed hives that spelled out liar in Morse code. Historians still argue whether Li Xian existed or coalesced from drunk poets, tall tailies. The evidence: a water-stained scroll found in a Suzhou attic, its text dissolving upon contact with air. Scholars grabbed what phrases they could: jade cracks, crane's wet cough, weight of unshed dew. You kneel, gloved fingers brushing the jar fragment. 9th century ceramic, maybe. Or a Tang Dynasty reproduction sold to German tourists. The difference melts here under street lamp glare and the stink of gasoline-tinged puddles. Huang's descendant lights a cigarette, smoke blending with mist. My aunt swore she caught the poem once, used a butterfly net and a rice paper filter. Said the words tasted like cold chrysanthemum tea, left a film on her teeth. She exhales sharply, ate nothing but garlic for a month, trying to scrub it off. Rain resumes, frigid needles down your collar. Across the flooded park, a delivery drone whirs overhead, its spotlight turning rain into falling diamonds. The jar shard gleams, then sinks, taking history with it. You imagine Li Xian's hands, ink-stained and prunny, still groping for his precious jars in the dark. They're wrong about the poem, Huang's descendant mutters. It's not words. It's the sound, the glug of jars filling, the hiss of breath when water hits lungs. She crushes her cigarette, embers dying in a puddle. Pour a cup tonight, listen close. Some say you'll hear him, still gasping, still arranging rhymes. You pocket the flashlight, turn toward home, boots kicking up spray. Behind you, something breaks the water's surface, a bubble or maybe a syllable. Either way, it doesn't care if you believe. City walls loom ahead, their shadows gulping your path whole. Mud sucks at your boots, same as it did 8 centuries ago. Taxmen back then had a nose for dew jars, sniffing them out like truffle pigs after rain. You've read the edicts, all collected due exceeding 3 caddies, subject to Imperial levy. Imagine filing that tax form. A shop shutter slams, you spin, heart hammering. Just old Wang dragging his noodle cart through puddles, but for a second, you swore you saw them. Robes dyed piss yellow, the color of Tang tax collectors. They'd arrive at dawn, demanding jars be placed on official scales, weights balanced with peacock feathers. Corrupt bastards, pocketed half, claiming evaporation. Here's the kicker. Records show due taxes funded a Jade Mountain spring restoration. Archaeologists found the site last decade, a dried-up ditch beside a KFC in Xi'an. Workers uncovered bricks stamped with tax codes and a single jade hairpin. Historians still argue whether bureaucrats skimmed funds or genuinely believed in dues infrastructure magic. Your phone buzzes, a weather alert, 90% chance of rain. You duck into a tea house, floorboards creaking like old grievances. The owner slides you chrysanthemum tea, his great-grandfather's recipe. Used to be, if you couldn't pay due tax, they'd take your daughter's dowry jars. He polishes a cup, fingerprints erasing clouded dragons. My great-aunt hid hers in a coffin, worked till the magistrate died. Then she married his son and poisoned him with oversteeped peony buds. Rain drums the roof, 1,000 tiny tax collectors knocking. Outside, a delivery scooter fishtails, its box labeled fragile. CERAMICS. You grip your cup tighter. 8th century rebels smashed jars rather than surrender them, pavements glittering with droplets and defiance. Modern replicas sell for 500 in tourist traps, their cracks pre-glued for authenticity. A puddle seeps under the door, carrying a maple leaf. You picture peasants whispering plans in cellars, code words over tea. One scroll fragment mentions moonlit Tuesdays, when rebels swapped tax due for donkey urine, fooled inspectors for 6 months, till a tipsy magistrate actually drank his sample. Your tea's gone cold. The owner refills it, steam rewriting his face into something ancient. They say rebel leaders tattooed maps on their feet, directions to hidden dew pools. He nods at your boots. Better check your soles, eh? Later, under a bus shelter, you notice graffiti. A stenciled jar slogan beneath, break the pot, not the people. Someone's added a QR code. You scan it, get redirected to an online game, do Rebellion Tycoon. Reviews say it's addictive and historically inaccurate. Old Wang trundles past again, cart now empty. His route hasn't changed since the uprising, when noodle vendors smuggled revolt plans in bamboo steamers. You've seen the museum exhibit, a moldy steamer labeled property of rebel chef Shang. Carbon dated to 763 AD, still smelling of pork and paranoia. The rain softens, leaving streets glazed like wet pottery. In the distance, sewer workers haul up a mossy jug. Could be Tang Dynasty, could be last Tuesday's Tsingtao bottle. Doesn't matter. Somewhere a bureaucrat's ghost licks his lips, tallying phantom droplets. You walk home, stepping over cracks where rebel jars still bleed into the earth. You smell smoke before seeing the flames. Autumn's last dew baskets crackle in a courtyard bonfire. 16 days after harvest moon. Same date Tang farmers marked on bamboo calendars. Official histories claim it's about gratitude, but your eyes sting from more than smoke. A woman tosses willow branches into the blaze. Their sap hisses like angry serpents. Grandma swore the ash protects next year's dew. Spread it where cranes nest. You nod, though you've read conflicting scrolls. One palace memoir describes concubines stealing festival ashes for love potions, rubbing them into scalp oils before dawn audiences. Teenagers jostle past, their hoodies speckled with glowing embers. Make a wish, one shouts, chucking a pine cone into the fire. 8th century villagers did the same, except with actual dew jars. Archaeologists found shards in Xi'an's outskirts, each labeled with curses against tax officials. Someone hands you rice wine in a clay cup. It tastes like vinegar and nostalgia. They used to mix ash into this, the vendor murmurs. For he taps his temple. Your Tang poetry professor called it ritual symbolism. Your liver thinks otherwise. The fire spits a charcoal stick at your feet, its tip shaped like a running man. Reminds you of rebel leader Huang Keo, who supposedly burned 12 Imperial dew warehouses in 874 AD. Mainstream textbooks omit that he coated his arrows in basket ash, believing it made flames hungrier. Historians still argue whether it was strategy or drunken arson poetry. Wind flips your notebook open to a pressed ginkgo leaf, stolen from a monastery garden last autumn. Monks once burned dew tools annually, believing stale rituals clouded the soul's clarity. Their ashes fertilized mulberry trees, silk from those groves reserved for emperors' undergarments. A child squeals, chasing a goat that's eating festival banners. You spot characters for abundance, dissolving in the animal's jaw. Ironies thicker than the smoke. Tang, wealthy, complained about sacrificial goats, getting drunk on ceremonial wine. Court logs list one pulsing with 22 hangover cures. The fire collapses its heart, glowing like molten jade. Someone starts singing, a minor key folk song about drowned dew collectors. Lyrics mention ghost baskets that refill themselves. Must have been hell on tax assessments. You hum along, remembering the Tang Dynasty rain summoners who inspired this. Their ash amulets sell for 80,000 yuan on eBay now. Probably cat ashes in a teeny urn. Cold nips your neck, a same chill that made Tang poets debate dead dew versus sleeping dew. Your breath fogs a QR code on a poster. Scanning, it shows a live stream of Kyoto's parallel festival. 1600 years apart, same smoke. Same arguments in the comments. Wasteful versus cultural treasure. A man offers you a persimmon, its skin split like old lips. Better eat before dew frost, he winks. Tang physicians warned late autumn dew caused melancholy of the spleen. Cure involved roasted crickets and a really firm back rub. Embers fade to gray stars on the cobblestones. You pocket one, still warm. Last week, a viral video showed a farmer spreading festival ash on drone rotors. For better pollination, he'd said. You hope he's trolling, but the likes keep climbing. As you leave, the goat reappears, bell jingling, muzzle stained with ash and defiance. Its eyes gleam like the last drop of dew in a rebel's cupped hands. Your boots crunch frozen grass where the goat trod, frost sparking underfoot like shattered chandeliers. A vendor waves you over his cart, steaming with cups of something that smells like roses, fighting a forest fire. Foreign bride blend, he barks. Half dew, half desert magic. You sip, petals and astringency clashing on your tongue. Turns out, foreign bride isn't just marketing. Meet Princess Tarim, 17 years old, shipped east from the Uyghur Khaganate in 821 AD to marry a Tang prince. Her dowry, 20 chests of dried roses and a grudge. Chronicles claim she burst into tears upon seeing servants dump dawn dew into teacups. In her homeland, that liquid silver preserved mummies, healed battle wounds, soaked into bridal veils to lock beauty inside. Wasting it on breakfast, barbaric. Historians agree the Silk Road buzzed with recipe swaps. But Tarim played dirty. She served rosewater tea at her wedding feast, a dig at Tang customs. Guests gulped it down, too polite to spit. Within weeks, perfumers near Chang'an's West Market sold de rose blends promising dual immortality. The hype died when a consort's hair turned sticky pink. For months, you lean against a leafless persimmon tree, its branches clawing at a tourism ad for Xinjiang raisins. Modern shops sell replicas of Tarim's ivory dropper bottles, now used for CBD oil. Funny how rebellion softens with age. Back then, officials called her mix pollution of Han essence. Teenagers loved it, sneaking sips at poetry clubs, comparing the aftertaste to stolen kisses. A shopgirl scrubs a marble counter, her rags smearing rose shapes into the grain. They say she wept into her teapot daily, she offers, made the brew sweeter. Likely nonsense, but you've read worse in peer-reviewed journals. Tang Dynasty texts mention tear-infused wines, though that's probably HR violations at palace banquets. Your cup's dregs swirl, a pink slick clinging to ceramic. Scientists recently recreated Tarim's recipe using 8th century pollen traces. Hit floral notes, so strong volunteers gagged. Turns out, mummy preservation grade rosewater isn't FDA approved. One food blogger compared it to drinking my grandma's potpourri. Got 2 million views. A toddler chases a blown rose petal, slapping it into a puddle. You recall Turpan's arid winds, how they mummified Tarim's ancestors without dew or silk. She'd have hated Chang'an's humidity, mold blooming in her rose chests, court ladies begging for her rotten flower tea. The more they mocked, the heavier she perfumed her sleeves. Scrolls describe ministers sneezing through entire audiences. Night seeps in street lamps flickering like drowsy fireflies. You pass a boutique hotel named Tarim's Sigh, its lobby reeking of synthetic roses. The clerk claims room 8's bathtub replicates her fusion baths. Dew and rose oil stirred with jade paddles. Online reviews complain about stained towels. Your phone buzzes. A friend's meme comparing Tarim's marriage to Spotify's Discover Weekly algorithm. Unlikely collab, surprisingly fire. You thumb a heart, then freeze. There's the debate phrase you needed. Historians still argue whether Tarim's tears were homesickness or tactical moisture to dilute terrible tea. Ice glazes the cobblestones now, same black sheen as the jars Tarim's servants smuggled dew in. They'd scratch false tax stamps onto the clay, a tidbit you found in some censored merchant logs. Carbon dating proved 3 Tang Dynasty jars in Louvre collections were actually 1980s fakes. Oops, a busker plays a pipa strings jangling through your scarf. The melody's listed as Song of the Broken Dowry, but it's just Ed Sheeran's Shape of You with extra tremolo. Tarim would have despised it, or maybe remixed it with downbeck drums. Cross-cultural confusion's a cycle, like dew collecting on roses each dawn, only to be boiled into someone else's tradition. Your last sip's gone cold, the aftertaste now pure iron like blood, or that time you bit through a tea strainer. Tomorrow you'll visit the historical recreation, Duro's workshop. Tonight, you imagine Tarim's ghost hovering over fusion tea houses, shaking her head, then stealing a splash of oat milk just to try. Your fingers brush a museum, displays cold glass. Inside lies a bronze crescent that could pass for a tiny Salvador Dali mustache. The label says ritual object, but you know better. This is a dew spoon, forgotten for centuries, till grave robbers pried it from a Tang noblewoman's moldy clutch. Archaeologists found 18 near Xi'an in 1972. Same dig that unearthed the Mawangdui silk texts. Official reports called them cosmetic Qin dynasty influencers, contouring cheekbones with tarnished bronze. Then, a junior researcher noticed leaf veins fossilized in the concavities, and someone finally read the scrolls buried beneath a scholar's wine stash. Turns out these spoons weren't for faces, they were dawn's scalpels. Poets used them to slice dewdrops off lotus leaves without shattering the beads. Each curve matched specific plants. Lotus required a shallower angle than peony bamboo needed a serrated edge. You lean closer. The spoon before you has microscopic notches, perfect for skimming droplets off hairy mulberry leaves. So much for ritual object. A school group crowds around their teacher droning about burial customs. One kid mouths boring, then startles when you whisper they're basically medieval dropper bottles. His eyes widen. Suddenly, history's cool. You don't mention The 2018 study, where botanists recreated dew collection with replica spoons, found they harvested 30% more than fingertip methods, or that the residue inside tested positive for honey and frog spawn. Scholars are stumped. The quirky bit: some spoons had Zhou Dynasty coins welded to their handles, poets insisting old money steadies the hand. Others were etched with tiny curses. May the next user's tea taste of donkey sweat. Ancient trolls, poetry's answer to Yelp reviews. You drift past a reconstruction video, actors in hemp robes plucking dewdrops with surgical focus. The narration purrs about harmony with nature, but scroll fragments tell a messier truth. Wang Wei's third wife allegedly threw a spoon at him for tracking mud into the dew pantry. A Tang divorce petition cites improper use of ceremonial implements as grounds for separation. Details get hazy, but forensic metallurgy proved one spoon's dent matched the plaintiff's forehead. Glass cases glow like jellyfish in the dim light. Here's the kicker: those scrolls, they resurfaced in a Seoul pawnshop, wrapped around a counterfeit Monet. Turns out a 1920s archaeologist had gambled away his findings, lost them to a back alley mahjong debt. Carbon dating confirmed their age, but the ink stains. Soy sauce. Your breath fogs the glass. Modern tea snobs dismiss the spoons as quaint. Yet high-end brands sell dew-touched, oolong processed, with laser-cut titanium blades. Historians still argue whether the original designs were functional or just poetry's version of fidget spinners. The label won't tell you that, but the security guard side-eyeing your smirk might. Outside, drizzle polishes the streets to a grimace. You duck into a bubble tea shop, its walls papered with manga-style dew spoon fan art. The barista slides you a taro milk tea, topped with what she calls dragon's breath foam. It's just cotton candy dissolving in humidity. But you picture a Tang poet's shrug. Everything's ritual, till someone adds sprinkles. Rain taps Morse code on the awning. You swipe through your phone, find a viral TikTok where someone uses a dew spoon replica to apply highlighter. 7 million likes. The comments scream, slay. And didn't these things used to curse people? Progress, or just history's shampoo rinse repeat cycle. You pocket the phone, watch raindrops slide down a bike rack. Each bead holds the city's upside-down sky, same as the ones Tang poets stole from sleeping leaves. Tools change, thirst doesn't. A tourist bumps you, spilling taro slush on your shoe. Her apologies lost in a burst of Mandarin and embarrassment. You nod, walk toward the subway, stepping over pavement shimmering with stolen sky. You shiver inside a reconstructed ice house, its walls packed with straw and sawdust, like a giant freezer for time travelers. 3rd century nobles called these Ling-Yin China's earliest refrigerators, though yours smells more of mildew than imperial luxury. Frost blooms across clay jars, each filled with dew collected during winter solstice. Cold brewing's OG hipsters didn't need hashtags. just a stubborn belief that fire coarsened heaven's breath. A tour guide demonstrates by crumbling a 1980s tea brick into a glass urn. The label warns against licking the display. Before sunrise, servants gathered ice from frozen ponds, she drones. You bite your tongue, she's skipping the good part. Scrolls from Dunhuang reveal workers used horse-drawn ice saws, making jagged slabs that glowed blue under moonlight. Legal codes fined anyone caught peeing on Imperial ice stores. But enforcement was chilly at best. The quirky twist. Some poets buried hollow bamboo tubes in snowbanks, claiming it imprinted the dew with mountain spine. Others distilled frost from plum blossoms, though Huangfu Ran's diary admits it mostly tasted like bark. Your breath hangs in the air, or is that leftover mist from the fog machine? A kid nearby sneezes, triggering a motion-activated recording of Tang poetry. The speakers hiss chrysanthemum. Dew turns bitter after the first frost, which rhymes better in Mandarin. You spot a replica Bing, who glass flasks so thin they'd shatter if a grasshopper coughed. Nobles flaunted them at parties until a tipsy general accidentally iced his entire table. Modern labs proved the glass couldn't hold hot tea without cracking, hence the cold brew craze. Historians still argue whether the trend was philosophical or just rich people avoiding degree burns. Displays show jade strainers used to fish out pine needles, and scandal. Princess Taping allegedly gifted her lover a dew strainer shaped like, well, something not found in nature. Court gossips called it the tool that brewed a rebellion. Your nose brushes a placard detailing peasant substitutes, boiled snow, well water, left in moonlight. Even stolen glacier chunks from Tibet. Tasting notes from the era include murderously clean and regret in liquid form. A video plays monks meditating beside dew urns, their beards crusted with ice. The caption insists they achieved enlightenment via chilled oolong. But a snort laugh comes from your left. A grad student whispers, or maybe hypothermia. You pocket an educational pamphlet titled 14th Century. Brain freezes. Your new subway reading. Outside, summer heat slaps your face like an insulted samurai. You duck into a cafe advertising authentic Tang cold brew. $23 for iced tea in a plastic cup. The barista swears they used mountain spring dew harvested via drone. Sure, and the cookies gluten-free. You sip anyway, tasting mostly honey and hubris. Rain clouds bruise the sky. Your phone pings, a friend texts. If the Tang had TikTok, they'd film, do unboxing videos. You reply with a selfie mimicking Princess Taping's scandalous strainer pose. 3 heart emojis blink back. Across the street, construction workers chip ice from a freezer truck, their pickaxes singing the same song as ancient horse-drawn saws. Heat rises, empires fall, but humans keep stealing winter's leftovers. The first raindrop hits your straw, rippling the tea's surface into 100 wobbly moons. Somewhere, 8th century poets nod, their ice long melted, their scorn for heated cups preserved like flies in amber, cold brews or hot messes. The debate steeps on. You crunch a half-melted ice cube and let the centuries dissolve on your tongue. You wander through a bamboo grove where the air hums with cicadas. Or is that the echo of ancient insults? Your guide points to 2 weathered stones markers where poets Li Yang and Wei Jin faced off 13 centuries back. Their crime. One called the other's prized duty pond scum. During a moonlit tasting, poetic homicide in the Tang social scene. Official records show poetry duels were state-sponsored events. Losers faced fines of silk, or in hot-blooded cases, exile. But this feud turned personal. Wei Jin's rebuttal poem compared Li Yang's dew to swamp breath scraped off a toad's back. Harsh, even for a guy who wrote odes to snail slime. The duel's rules were simple. Compose verses in midair with ink-loaded brushes, no paper, no revisions. Whoever's characters stayed legible longest on the courtyard, stones won. Crowds placed bets using silver hairpins and dried crickets. Rumors claim they mixed their ink with the very dew they fought over Li Yang's from lotus leaves. Wei Jin's scooped off bronze mirrors. Tasting the ink supposedly revealed who'd win if you ignored the lead poisoning risk. First round, Li Yang's brush flicks a line about jade pearls born of dawn's virgin sigh. His droplets cling to the rock bold as scarred calligraphy. Wei Jin counters with a couplet slagging Li's hometown as a puddle even mosquitoes avoid. The crowd ooze his ink beads like mercury, rejecting the stone's surface. Historians still argue whether their feud truly lasted 13 years or just felt that way to anyone trapped between them. By Harvest 7, their weapons evolved. Li Yang hired blacksmiths to forge a brush tipped with jade, its bristles stolen from temple altar brooms. Wei Jin responded with a hollow bamboo stylus that squirted ink at his rival's eyes. Scrolls note 3 bystanders got permanently stained, earning the nickname the Indigo Trio. Court ministers finally banned projectile calligraphy. But by then, the poets were kneading insults into dumpling dough and mailing them via donkey. The quirky twist. Their dew-war sparked a trend of scavenger poets licking monuments for residual ink. A 9th century health manual warns, scroll licking may induce verse-induced vomiting. Consult physician before quoting Li by postmeal. You press a palm to the dual stones, their surface still faintly sticky. Someone's kid yells, tastes like old raisins. A review Li Yang once received for his chrysanthemum wine blend at year 13. The duel imploded during a poetry slam at Xuanzang's summer palace. Wei Jin accused Li Yang of using melted hail instead of dew, a capital offense in the tea purist underground. Witnesses describe ink pots shattered, beards pulled, and one ill-advised attempt to settle things via interpretive dance. The emperor exiled both to opposite borders. Wei Jin to shovel snow in the north, Li Yang, to count coconuts on Hainan Island. Today, their feud lives on. You pass a gift shop hawking dueling dew repellent. It's just green tea in a tube. A vlogger films herself reenacting Wei Jin's infamous toad breath. Critique her phone, propped on a pile of translated anthologies. Back home, your own teapot sits crusted with mineral deposits, each stain a possible haiku. You debate licking it, but remember the indigo trio. Rain blurs the courtyard stones, inkless at last. The cicadas throttle their buzz into something like laughter. You pocket a fallen bamboo leaf, rolling its edge between your fingers. 13 years of spite, distilled into a souvenir that'll crumble by morning. Somewhere, Li Yang and Wei Jin still bicker in the afterlives, dunking brush tips into celestial wells, trading jabs about the moisture content of clouds. You edge past the gift shop's neon clutter. Its plastic bamboo cups click like gamblers' dice, and into the shadow of Chang'an's forgotten observatory. Here's where they brewed tea under stolen suns, where moonlight wasn't enough. Eclipse dew collecting wasn't a hobby, it was a dare. Tang astronomers logged 19 eclipses between 618 and 907 AD. But the real tally lives in apothecary ledgers. Crouch, touch the cracked urn at your feet, its glaze blistered from haste. They'd scramble when skies darkened, silver trays held like shields against heaven's anger. Superstition, said Eclipse, dew-carried metal's kiss, a tang like licking a sword. Traders sold it as dragon's saliva to thrill-seekers, though most just mixed well water with iron filings. The smart ones added saffron to mimic that rusty afterglow. Your nose wrinkles at the memory of a reenactor's brew last summer. Burmese tea leaves stewed in nail polish remover. Close enough. Historians still argue whether the metallic myth began with real mineral shifts or just poets tripping on eclipse anxiety. One scroll swears blind tasters could pinpoint exact eclipse dates from a single sip. But good luck finding volunteers now. The fringe detail. Eclipse dew jars got sealed with oxblood clay because nothing says refreshing beverage like hemoglobin undertones. Picture the black market. Silk-hooded figures trading vials in alleyways. A merchant whisper, this batch curdled during the hour of the dog, Eclipse extra potency. Buyers risked Imperial wrath, or worse, bad Yelp reviews. You kneel where in Tea Master's hut once stood. The floors pocked with heat circles from countless kettles. Legends claim the best brew required 3 moon-shadowed dews, first quarter full. Eclipse, mixed in ratios, only sung about by drunken lamplighters. A tourist's shadow falls across the stones, their selfie stick buzzing like an offended wasp. Is this where they did the poison tea? They ask, mistaking rebellion for reality TV drama. You nod toward a rusted brazier. That's where they tested for lead content, using parakeets. Half true, the birds were just decoration. Night falls as you exit. Vendors along spirit-soothing street now hawk eclipse revival. Kits tin pots, straw filters, a pamphlet of suspect poems. You buy one for the caffeine poster inside, an illuminated manuscript of tipsy cranes judging tea contests. Your phone dings, a friend's meme comparing eclipse due to influencer collabs. Both overpriced, fleeting, and weirdly addictive. You pocket it, stepping over a grate where steam rises in greasy spirals. Some say Li Yang's ghost still haunts these drains, forever cursing the metallic aftertaste he never lived down. Rain threatens again, each drop a potential ingredient. You unscrew your thermos, letting the first cold sip dissolve 13 centuries of hype. The aftertaste, mostly Sumatra beans, but maybe, just maybe, a lightning flash of tinfoil on the tongue. Traders would charge double for that. The monsoon air sticks to your neck like a debtor's promise as you duck into a tea stall's awning. A vendor slides a chipped cup toward you, special batch, Li Bai's own pond. But her eyes dart to a poster of the poet mid-sneeze. You sip sharp herbs instead. Everyone here peddles dead men's water. But Wang Shen's hustle still raises eyebrows 12 centuries later. That charmer rode into Chang'an with donkey carts groaning under authentic Baiyun spring jars, each stamped with Li Bai's supposed thumbprint. Never mind the real Baiyun lay 3 provinces away. Wang hired actors to play the poet's descendants, crooked eyebrows, and all reciting verses for copper coins. His masterstroke, sprinkling crushed mooncake crusts into the dew to mimic celestial dandruff. Scholars note Li Bai wrote 73 poems about wine, but only 2 vaguely mentioning dew. Wang's pamphlets quoted imaginary lines. Jade drops smoother than a concubine's sigh, until a librarian's niece recognized her own lovelorn diary entries. You trace a stall's counterfeit seal, still sticky. The real scandal came when locals realized Wang had never seen a pond larger than a puddle. His Li Bai special was brewed from West Market Canal water, filtered through his uncle's discarded socks. Historians still argue whether the poet preferred Baiyun spring at all. Court records suggest he favored tavern basements. Here's the kicker, tourists loved it. Wang sold out twice. His secret, free authentication locks, bronze charms that turned patrons' teeth green for weeks. 800 years later, archaeologists found a skeleton near Luyang with Wang's trademark flask still clutched in hand and a smile. The kicker, it wasn't poison. Dude just died laughing at his own audacity. A bead of sweat rolls down your bottle tap water, pretending to be alpine runoff. You smirk at how nothing changes. Wang's best trick, convincing customers the metallic aftertaste was Li Bai's bitterness at Imperial politics. Sold more after that. Rain drums the tarp overhead as a merchant's parrot squawks. Pure dew, sourced yesterday. You flick a coin into its tin payment for comedy. The bird coughs up a papier-mâché lotus petal. Dark joke Wang's downfall came via a love letter. He'd wooed a spice trader's daughter with forged Li by erotica, accidentally dropped one in a magistrate's courtyard. The trial lasted 3 minutes. His sentence: brew tea for the prison guards. Using their own foot-washing water, you pocket a wrapper boasting emperor-approved. In Comic Sans, across the street, a toddler licks a dew jar's lid while her mom argues over dynasties. Somewhere, Wang's ghost high-fives a marketing exec. The storm breaks. You step into mud already thickening into tomorrow's scams, air heavy, with wet dust and inherited gullibility. Your last sip tastes of mildew and punchlines, with faint notes of a 9th century hustler grinning through rotten teeth. The alley reeks of wet cardboard and resignation. You nearly miss the old man whistling through his teeth. His bamboo basket holds 9 chipped bowls and a crow with a ribboned ankle. It stares at you like a burnt-out philosophy major. Teach them to siphon morning dew, he croaks, angling a rusted spoon toward the bird. Took me 30 winters. The ribboned crow pecks his earlobe. Payment overdue, you suppose. By the 900s CE, every provincial capital had 17 steam-powered tea houses. Real dew collectors became circus acts. Come see the leaf whisperer. Posters plastered over public wells. Historians still argue whether Li Yu's treatise on avian hydrology was satire or desperate genius. His diagrams show crows gripping lotus stems like tiny umbrellas. The bird lunges for your sleeve button. No pay, no demonstration. The man snaps, then winces as 3 crows start thieving his hairpins. You toss a coin. He produces a vial of murky liquid, dragon well special, harvested by a crow squawks. Okay, okay. Mayung and Zioling did the work. Good birds. He pats the thief's head. Its beak drips something that smells of fermented apricots. Records show Empress Taizong's great-great-grandniece paid 23 crows to lick droplets off her roof tiles. Court poets called it aerial infusions, until the birds preferred gutter puddles. The old man's brew coats your tongue with a metallic tang, like licking a forgotten key. Better than those factory pipes. He gestures to distant smokestacks. One coughs, a plume shaped like a teapot. The irony's thick enough to steep in. Last practitioners went rogue, collecting midnight dew from execution grounds or drunkards. Eyelids. A 1920s Shanghai tabloid claims a master trained magpies to steal tears from widows. Likely bullshit, but you eye the crow's talons anyway. Your host spits into the gutter, a perfect arc over a modern tea revolution. Poster. The offended crow flaps after the globule, mistaking it for prey. You're almost impressed. 3 teens skateboard past, Bluetooth speakers blaring a Tang poem remix. The old man throws a lotus pod. It bounces off Confucius' pixelated face on a billboard. Last real Duseller died in 94, he mutters, feeding a crow from his dentures. Taught finches next. Smaller beaks, cheaper upkeep. You ask why bother. He grins, gaps in his teeth like missing steps. Someone's gotta remind water it used to be sacred. A crow drops a gum wrapper into his palm. Also, they're cheaper than interns. Drizzle resumes. The birds flap into a sycamore, croaking a tune that's either auld lang syne or tinnitus. Your empty vial catches a droplet. It slides down like the last line of a missing poem, bitter, defiant, laughing at its own extinction. Your shoes stick to the vinyl floor of Golden Dragon Tea House 46, each step a protest against fluorescent lights. The barista's apron screams, "CHA Master." In Comic Sans, his pour-over setup includes a smartphone mount for TikTok brewing tutorials. A clump of tourists snap selfies with a dusty jar behind glass. Tang Dynasty relic claims the placard. Its cracks hold shadows that squirm if you stare too long. Mainstream museums dismiss it as 7th century Tupperware. But notice the condensation pooling at dawn. Tap water only. The barista barks, steaming a latte with Levi's face in foam. It vomits a leaf-shaped nozzle. You point to the relic. He sighs, "That thing. We turn it 3 times yearly. Union rules." Historians agree Tang tea masters favored silver jars. They believed metal captured Dew's moon soul. Yet this clay pot sweats in air conditioning, a faint hum vibrating its base. The barista mops the puddle. "Plumbing leak," he insists. You palm a 5 yuan note. He pockets it, then whispers. Lao Li from maintenance swears it sweats more during poetry recitals. Last week, the steam formed 2 characters. His phone flashlight reveals a stain shaped like Chinese letter, resentment, probably mildew, he adds, but his eyes dart to a security camera. A drip lands on your wrist, colder than ice. The jar's glaze ripples, as if something pressed against it from within. Across town, a garage startup sells dew pods, solar-powered drones that mimic swallow flight patterns to harvest morning mist. Founder Wang claims his grandma's stories inspired him. Reviews complain about birds dive-bombing the tech, feathered copyright infringement. You pocket a smuggled apricot pit, the old man's going rate for unauthorized relic rubbings. The baristas, now audibly reciting quiet night thought to the jar. Steam fogs the glass. But whether those curls resemble Chinese letter moon or a middle finger depends on your caffeine intake. At closing time, the janitor unplugs the jar's display lights. He winks, sloshing its contents into a thermos. 19 years cleaning. Still can't tell if it's haunted or a sneaky condensation coil. His breath smells of jasmine and regret. Historians still argue whether 9th century jars were deliberately porous to breathe with dew cycles or just shoddy pottery. You press your ear to the relic. A wet gurgle answers, maybe plumbing, maybe laughter. The thermos clangs like a distant temple bell. Rain slicks the streets as you exit. A delivery bot zooms past, its compartment loaded with Imperial dew blend tea bags. The ingredient list includes reverse osmosis mystery. Above, crows roost on 5G towers, shaking wet wings in unison. Your apricot pit grows warm, or maybe that's just urban decay. Back in your apartment, you microwave a mug. The steam rises, and for half a blink, twists into a tiny hand reaching upward. Tap water never did that before. You sip slowly, tasting centuries of rebellions, scams, and birds with terrible loyalty. The phone dings, a promo for AIT readings. You mute it, watching vapor paint shadows on the ceiling. They quiver like unspoken words, or the wings of something learning to fly again. The phone's blue glare paints your cupboard as you Google ancient do ratios. Some off-brand energy drink hydrates your bad decisions. Keywords lead to auction listings. Fragment 4A7, Tang Tea Blending Guide, forgery, inventory pending. A thumbnail shows charred paper with beetle wing sheen, edges jagged as a drunkard's signature. Mainstream archaeology's darling, the Dunhuang manuscripts, get name-dropped in the description. 20,000 scrolls found in a sealed cave, but this shred, listed by an influencer's curio collective, based in a Macau storage unit. Your thumb hovers, 69 bids already. Someone's selling a QR code promising ritual ambience sounds with purchase. You splurge. 3 days later, a vacuum-sealed package arrives with a free Buddha bobblehead. The fragment reeks of synthetic sandalwood and lies. Carbon dating confirms 9th century ink, but the dew-to-leaf ratios red like love potions. 3 drops from peony petals, 7 from bamboo, 12 stolen during a widow's morning hour. Experts think it's either genius pharmacology or a horny nobleman's shopping list. The kicker, brew it, and the tea tastes fine, not transcendent, not poisoned, just Earl Grey with commitment issues. A YouTuber claims the recipe cured their gluten intolerance. Reviews pounce, drank it, still allergic to my ex's texts. Reddit threads devolve into keyboard wars over proper morning hour collection methods. One user swears they followed the ratios perfectly, only to attract a family of raccoons. Meanwhile, Guangzhou's university labs are having a meltdown. Spectroscopy reveals traces of fermented peach pits in the parchment, something no Tang text mentions. A tech CEO starts selling scroll-fed AI that recreates lost brews. His demo involves training rats to fetch vials. Unionization rumors follow. You brew fragment 4A7's recipe using distilled water and a prayer. The steam coils into something queasy, a smoky tendril that flicks your earlobe. First sip, burnt sugar and regret. 5th sip, a metallic aftertaste like licking old coins or blood. Historians still argue whether these ratios describe medicinal tonics or elaborate metaphors for broken treaties. The fragment's backside, barely legible, shows an illustration. A nude figure drinking from a crescent moon. Scholarly take, allegory for celestial unity. Your take, 8th century thirst trap. Midnight finds you cross-referencing Tang divorce decrees, turns out widows were legally forbidden from remarrying for 2 years. Coincidence? The brew's acidity spikes as moonrise hits your windowsill. A neighbor's cat yowls at your teapot, fur bristling like a powdered wig. By dawn, you're hunched over translation apps. That 7 drops from bamboo glyph might mean rainwater stolen from government canals, or weepings of executed poets. Depends which grad student's thesis you plagiarize. The fragment survives 3 more brews before crumbling into your strainer. You fish out a final scrap, a single character surviving the burned Chinese letter. Melt, harmony, profit. The cat knocks over your mug as you mop caramel-colored puddles. The live stream notification pings. The influencers sold 80 more fragments overnight, all laser-etched on printer paper. Comments rage about authenticity. Your tongue still numb, you type. Tastes legit. Rain taps the window. Somewhere, a PhD candidate weeps into their ginseng latte. The crumpled QR code hums static if you squint. It almost sounds like a poem. Almost. The jade bowl chills your palms like a sliver of never-melting frost. Its curves, worn smooth by thumbs you'll never know. Dawn leaks through your blinds, pale fingers reaching for kitchen tiles. You fill the bowl not with water, but anticipation. Historical records claim Tang scholars used such vessels to capture heaven's breath, untainted by mortal hands. Jade being too precious for common wells. Your knockoff edition came free with a bubble tea order. Yet here you are squatting by a spider plinth as traffic howls outside. A bead trembles on a leaf's edge your breath catches. One wrong twitch, and the droplet plummets to its styrofoam ceiling death. You steady the bowl, a move they'd trained for years, only to remember those poets didn't have carpal tunnel from scrolling. The drop falls, misses, splatters your pinky. 7th century manuals swore the left hand brought bad luck. Right-handed collectors got better brews and fewer hauntings. Your southpaw grip explains last week's sleep paralysis, demon offering tea critiques. Another bead forms. You tilt the leaf, silver sliding into greenstone. Success. The bowl's colder now, or your hands are warmer. Historians still bicker whether these rituals celebrated purity, or let poets flirt with ancestor spirits through shared steam. You count 7 drops, sacred number for marital harmony in Tang lore. Then fake casually add 3 from the faucet. Purists would scream. You call it historically informed improv. The microwave hums a gong for the modern mystic. Steeped leaves unfurl like intercepted love letters. First sip moss and something postal. Turns out your jade, bowl's resin leaches a Fisher-Price aftertaste. 8th century connoisseurs preferred porcelain anyhow. Jade was for show-offs. A breeze riffles your hair, windows closed. The steam spirals into a blurry silhouette, robed, holding what might be a cup or a scroll. You blink, it's gone. The tea now tastes of library dust and apricots. Your phone buzzes. A do collection TikTok tutorial. Tang Hacks suggests using a salad spinner. Comments erupt. Authenticity is gatekeeping. My ancestors died for this aesthetic. You dunk a Dorito, poets would written odes to Cool Ranch. Sunbeam hits the bowl, the liquid glows uranium green. Probably the resin again, unless a Tang chemist once described dew sickness, causing hallucinations of dancing badgers. You file it under quirky and sip slower. The last swallow coats your tongue like liquid parchment. Scholars still don't know why some brews made poets weep or knights betray emperors. Was it herbs? Politics? Cheap wine smuggled in celadon teapots? Traffic dies, a sudden hush. For 3 breaths, the bowl's rim feels like someone else's fingers. A ghostly thumbprint evaporates as sirens rise. You rinse the vessel, hesitating before setting it on a takeout menu. Night falls. The bowl sweats a single drop, clings to the edge, defies gravity. You lean close. It reflects your eye and another gold-flecked blinking back. You slam the lights on. Just your reflection, plus sleep deprivation. The microwave clock screams 2:17 a.m. Somewhere, a poet's laughing, or a neighbor's TV bleeds through walls. The bowl sits innocent, stains rinsed clean. Your pinky twinges where dew first fell. Tomorrow, you'll Google symptoms of 7th century curses after coffee. For now, moonlight licks the bowl, empty again, waiting. The microwave's glow paints your kitchen like a nuclear sunrise. Light pollution never stopped a determined mystic. You cradle the bowl again, its resin now cross-hatched with hairline cracks. Tap water goes in this round, rebellion against dead purists. A voice in your head sounds suspiciously like that sleep paralysis tea critic. Steam curls, thinner tonight, a ghost's pinky finger tracing your jawline. Tang poets wrote about breathing with the departed through vapor. Though most scholars blame opium-laced incense for those passages, your discount Earl Grey offers no such excuses. A bubble rises, bursts, leaves a floating lens. Peer closer. Reflections warp, curved roofs where your ceiling should be, willow trees where the fridge hums. Historians still argue whether these visions were spiritual or just undiagnosed astigmatism in candlelight. Your phone buzzes, a meme comparing Lee Bai to a TikTok influencer. You swipe away, too late. The steam now smells of burnt popcorn and myrrh. 8th century physicians prescribed dew tea for melancholic vapors. Side effects included spontaneous haiku and waking up in strangers' gardens. Something glints at the bowl's bottom, not a leaf. A sliver of metal. You fish it out, a fleck of gold foil clinging to your nail. Connoisseurs used to gild dewdrops for emperors, 18-karat bling dissolved into their morning brew. Your takeout sushi packet sheds similar bling, probably not intentional. Laughter echoes, sharp and papery, like scrolls unfurling in reverse. The sound hovers near the mold spot you've been ignoring above the sink. Tang ghost stories warned of tea demons, haunting unfinished cups. Modern ones just leave passive-aggressive sticky notes. An ice cube cracks, you jump. The bowl sloshes, steam licks your wrist. Hot, but not scalding. Alchemists claimed properly harvested to balanced temperatures could simmer for hours without boiling. You eye the microwave, decide not to test it. 3 sips in, your tongue numbs. Not the resin this time. Your throat tightens, sweetness rotting into iron. Some claimed dew turned toxic if collected during mourning periods. But who's grieving? The answer floats just beyond reach, like a name whispered against glass. You set the bowl down, it sticks to the counter. Ancient texts mention vessels bonding to unworthy owners, though that's likely just dried lychee juice. Peel it free, the underside's fogged with breath, not your own. Streetlights flicker, shadows stretch like ink in water. For half a heartbeat, your reflection wears a hat, broad-rimmed, official-looking. Tang bureaucrats drank due tea before signing death warrants, ritual purification for dirty work. Your grocery list feels less dramatic by comparison. A car alarm wails. The steam twitches, spirals into a tight coil. Poets called this the dragon's exhalation, sign of exceptional brew. Your neighbor shouts obscenities in Romanian. Both phenomena remain untranslatable. The last swallow waits. You hesitate, tongue remembering that phantom apricot taste from yesterday. Archaeologists recently found a tomb with petrified dewdrops sealed in jade tubes. Preservation overkill or poetic desperation. The liquid touches your lips cold, bone deep cold. Your breath mists. It's 70 degrees. Legends say the final drop holds a winter even summer can't melt. Your teeth chatter, Google's no help when frost crawls up your phone screen. Shadows congeal by the fire escape, a silhouette with too many elbows holding a cup. You stare. It scratches the window like a branch or a long nail. Tang exorcists used tea dregs to banish spirits. Dump yours hastily. The stain spreads shapeless, then not. Characters emerge in the spill, brushstrokes of an unknown language. Scholars still debate whether due script was religious code or the result of tipsy monks and spilled ink. You grab a paper towel, artifact destroyed. Regret tastes familiar. Moonlight shifts. The bowl's cracks glow veins of fake jade, lighting up like fault lines. A dynasty fell because generals ignored such fissures. Or was that a Netflix docudrama? Memory blurs where Wikipedia ends. You yawn, sudden and seismic. Midnight dew was thought to induce prophetic dreams or food poisoning. Your eyelids droop, street lamps blur into paper lanterns. The bowl hums, a forgotten melody about cicadas and unfinished journeys. Someone coughs. You jolt awake alone. The air smells of wet charcoal and magnolias. Tang funerals burned tea leaves to guide souls. Your nostrils flare. Is that barbecue? Apartment 3's at it again. Fingers numb. You rise, leave the bowl circling the sink drain. Archaeologists would weep. The poets. they've seen worse. 3 drips hit stainless steel, echoing that stupidly famous poem about broken jade. Sleep comes swift and dark. The steam follows, threading through dreams of unmarked graves and grocery runs. When dawn licks the window, the bowl's empty, save for one bubble clinging to the rim. It holds your reflection and a smudged face peering over your shoulder. Historians swear Tang mirrors were too cloudy for clear images. You turn nothing. The bubble pops. Your ears ring with faraway applause, or maybe just tinnitus from last night's mystery tea. The microwave clock dies mid-beep, frozen at 3:04. Tang timekeeping relied on incense sticks, a system that never required firmware updates. You fill the bowl with orange juice, heresy that would started wars, and toast the unseen crowd. Traffic resumes, a roar smothering whispers. Sunlight kills the steam's last wisp, a sigh against your cheek. Some say the dead linger until dawn's first warmth. Others blame sleep deprivation. You'll never know, and neither will they. The microwave's hum fades to a murmur, walls exhaling tension you never named. Your fingers uncurl, palm kissing cool formica, where steam once wrote secrets. Outside, a car shifts gears, its growl softened by layers of night air. 3 street lamps blur into paper lanterns, then snap back, mercifully mundane. The bowl's gold fleck winks once, turns out to be plastic glitter. Even emperors got duped sometimes. Histories full of discount miracles. You sink into a chair. Its creak harmonizes with your slowing pulse. Flicker by the fridge. Just led afterlife from dead vegetables. Let scholars debate visions. Your shoulders press into reality's stubborn embrace. Breathe in burnt popcorn, gives way to laundry detergent and sleep. Tomorrow's to-do list floats, half-truths smudged by dawn's approach. The poets knew some answers only dissolve, never truly steep. Eyelids seal the world out, no scrolls, no dripping calligraphy. Let whatever watched from steam become shadow, become air, become nothing. Rest arrives without fanfare, a guest who needs no invitation, no due, no ceremony, just this.